Jury selection is officially underway in the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Chloe Malas was in federal court today, and Chloe, no jurors selected, but a pretty revealing start to the 8-week trial.
Lester, that's right. It was an illuminating first day of court. Combs entered the courtroom wearing a crew neck sweater and a white button-down shirt. He had some gray in his hair and in his goatee. And at one point, he told the judge that he needed to use the bathroom and that he was feeling a little bit nervous. Now, also, several celebrities were named today, although they haven't been accused of any wrongdoing. They might be mentioned during the course of the trial. Their names are Michael B. Jordan, Mike Myers, Kanye West, and his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, who has accused him of years of physical and emotional abuse. And she is expected to testify during the trial. Now, Combs has vehemently denied all of the allegations against him. I also want to point out that celebrity attorney Mark Garagos, he was present in the courtroom. His daughter is Tenny Garagos, one of the lead attorneys for Combs throughout this trial. Now, a source telling NBC News that he hasn't joined the team, but he is advising on jury selection.
Digging deep into the whole legal drama swirling around Sean Diddy Combs.
Yeah, it's really heating up.
Forget the velvet robes, we're talking federal courtrooms, big evidence fights, and honestly, a trial that could change how you see a lot of things.
Absolutely. The stakes are incredibly high.
So our mission today, cut through all the noise, lay out Diddy's game plan, the evidence stacked against him, and what this whole thing actually means for him and, well, for everyone watching.
And what's really striking right off the bat is just the intensity, the sheer amount of legal maneuvering happening as this thing barrels towards trial.
It feels like both sides are really coming out swinging already.
Oh, definitely. It signals this is going to be a really complex, really high-stakes fight in court.
So let's start with who's deciding Diddy's fate. The jury selection, that's actually kicked off, right? For this trial that's supposed to be, what, 8 weeks?
8 weeks, yeah. They've got an initial pool of potential jurors, and they're planning to bring in more.
And get this, they are apparently asking people, point blank, how okay they are with seeing some really graphic, sexually explicit stuff. They specifically mention these things called freak-off tapes. Now, for anyone wondering, the allegations paint these as like drug-fueled sex performances.
And asking that directly, it really underscores how sensitive and maybe disturbing some of the evidence is going to be.
Yeah, it tells you what the prosecution might be planning to show.
Exactly. They need a jury that can handle that kind of graphic content and stay impartial. It really suggests that the tapes are, pretty central to their case.
And Diddy himself, he actually showed up on day one. Now, okay, it's court, not a fashion show, but people noticed the look crew neck sweater, white button down, bit of gray showing.
More subdued look, perhaps.
Yeah, but the real kicker, he apparently told the judge he was nervous, even asked for a bathroom break.
Oh, wow.
Plus his family. Usually they're there, right? This time, nowhere in sight.
That's interesting, that kind of visible nervousness, especially from someone who's usually so composed. It says a lot about the pressure he must be feeling.
Totally. And the family thing. I mean, who knows what it means, but it feels significant, doesn't it, compared to past hearings?
It really does. That vulnerability, well, you could read it a few ways, but it definitely suggests he understands the weight of what's happening. And the lack of family support in the room. Yeah, that could point to just how serious this is.
Okay, here's where it gets even more. Like Hollywood. Some huge celebrity names might get mentioned during the trial. We're talking Michael B. Jordan, Mike Myers, even Kanye West.
Wow, really?
Yeah, though important note, they aren't accused of doing anything wrong. But their names might come up.
Okay.
And of course, Cassie Ventura, his ex-girlfriend. Her accusations really kicked this whole thing off. She is expected to testify.
Right. Seeing those kinds of names potentially involved, even just tangentially, it really highlights the world Diddy moves in, doesn't it? And maybe the context for these alleged events.
Absolutely. And Cassie's testimony, I mean, that's going to be absolutely pivotal. Her original lawsuit, even though it's settled, that's what opened the door for this whole federal investigation.
Definitely. The mention of those other high-profile people, even if they aren't accused, adds that layer of celebrity intrigue to what's fundamentally a very serious legal case. But Cassie's testimony, that's crucial for the prosecution. She's the main named accuser here.
Now, shifting gears a bit behind the scenes, it looks like Diddy's legal dream team might be hitting some turbulence.
Oh, what's happening there?
Well, one attorney, Anthony Rico, just suddenly withdrew, and the reason given. protected by attorney-client privilege.
Ooh, that usually means something significant happened, like a major disagreement.
Right. It often suggests a pretty big clash or maybe an ethical issue that means they just can't represent him anymore. And this comes after that big firm, Grobman Shire, Milas, and Sachs, already left earlier.
I remember that. Weren't there rumors about Lady Gaga maybe being involved in that decision?
Yeah, exactly. Those whispers were floating around. And now, word is, they're adding 2 new lawyers to the team.
Making changes like that this close to trial, that can sometimes be a bit of a red flag. Rico stepping down, especially citing privilege, definitely raises eyebrows.
And bringing new people in now means they have a massive learning curve, right?
Absolutely. These late-stage team changes could signal some real difficulties with strategy or maybe fundamental disagreements on how to handle the case as the trial date rushes closer. Adding new counsel now suggests they feel a need to switch things up.
And hold on to your hats for this next one. Diddy has officially, flat out, rejected a plea deal offered by the government.
Wow, okay. Any idea what the terms were?
We don't know the exact details, but the prosecutors apparently hinted it could have meant, a shorter sentence. Choosing to go to trial instead of taking that is a huge, huge risk.
It's an enormous gamble. Rejecting a plea, especially when the prosecution likely feels they have a strong hand, means he and his lawyers must think they have a genuine shot at winning in court.
Despite everything that's come out.
Exactly. Or it means he's just absolutely unwilling to admit to anything, and he's prepared to face much, much harsher consequences if he loses at trial.
Definitely raises the stakes.
Considerably. Opting for trial shows either a really strong belief in his defense or just a flat refusal to plead guilty, even if it means a potentially less severe outcome.
Okay, let's talk about what might be the prosecutions, like smoking gun, or maybe smoking video. That 2016 hotel hallway footage.
Ah, yes, the Cassie video.
The one allegedly showing Diddy assaulting Cassie. That seems like a massive piece of evidence. And his legal team has been fighting like crazy to keep it out of the courtroom.
And you can see why. Visual evidence of alleged abuse, that can be incredibly powerful, incredibly impactful for a jury.
Their attempts to block it just show how damaging they think it could be.
Absolutely. That video gives a direct visual account, potentially, of the events alleged. It makes it a very influential piece of evidence for the prosecution, and the defense's fight to exclude it just underscores how important they know it is.
So what is their argument against it? It sounds pretty wild. They're calling the footage CNN aired totally inaccurate, claiming it was altered, manipulated, sped up, edited out of sequence, basically, the works. They're even questioning separate iPhone footage from around the same time.
Okay.
And they're throwing out this accusation that CNN actually paid for the hotel footage and then destroyed the original source.
Oh, those are really serious claims against a major news organization.
Totally. The defense is basically trying to completely discredit this key piece of evidence by attacking how it was obtained and presented. They're hoping to plant seeds of doubt.
That's a very aggressive strategy, alleging manipulation and unethical journalism, trying to undermine the prosecution's narrative at its core. High stakes.
But CNN isn't having any of it. They are firmly stating the video wasn't altered in any way and that they still possess the original.
Okay, so CNN is pushing back hard. Their strong denial sets up this major battle over credibility, doesn't it? If CNN can prove the video's authentic, it really weakens the defense's argument for keeping it out.
It's a direct challenge. The court's going to have to sort this one out.
Definitely a key point of contention.
Meanwhile, the prosecution is standing their ground. They say the video is absolutely admissible. They even used it before, right, in those bail hearings.
That's right, to argue against releasing him before trial.
And their plan now is to use it to demonstrate a pattern of control and coercion.
That makes sense from their perspective. Using the video to establish a pattern of behavior is a classic legal approach in abuse cases.
Showing a prior alleged incident to suggest ongoing misconduct, kind of bolstering Cassie's testimony.
Exactly. They'll likely argue this isn't just some isolated thing, but part of a bigger picture, a broader pattern. That's common when you have allegations of repeated abuse.
And it's not just the video they're fighting over. Diddy's lawyers also filed this big motion to suppress a whole bunch of other evidence.
Like what?
Like stuff seized from his homes, his iCloud accounts, phones, electronic devices, even evidence from a New York hotel room.
Okay, so basically everything gathered in those raids and searches.
Pretty much. They're arguing the searches were unconstitutional based on distorted information, saying the warrants were way too broad and relied on, quote, non-credible information.
That kind of motion to suppress is a standard defense playbook move, really. If there are any questions about how evidence was gathered, you challenge it.
And if they win,
If they convince the judge the searches were illegal, any evidence found because of those searches could get thrown out, which could obviously be a huge blow to the prosecution's case. It can gut their ability to build their narrative.
okay, now brace yourself for this defense strategy. Reports say they plan to argue that Cassie was actually a willing participant
A willing participant in what?
in these alleged drug-fueled sex performances called freak-offs,
Yeah.
that she wasn't coerced.
Wow, okay. That willing participant argument,
Yeah.
it's a really controversial tactic, often seen in sexual assault cases.
Yeah, it feels like trying to flip the script, suggesting it was all consensual no matter the circumstances or, power dynamics involved.
Exactly. It attempts to reframe everything as consensual, potentially ignoring factors like influence or control. It's a contentious strategy, legally and ethically.
And it gets even, wilder. Apparently, his lawyers also filed a motion claiming his mental capacity was diminished
Diminished how?
due to drugs and alcohol, arguing it could potentially make him less responsible for his actions.
The diminished capacity defense.
But prosecutors are already fighting that one hard, trying to block any expert witnesses from testifying about it.
That makes sense. The diminished capacity defense basically argues the defendant wasn't, in the right state of mind to fully understand or intend their actions.
Right.
But the prosecution will push back, probably bring in their own experts to say, no, he was perfectly aware of what was happening. It's another major battleground.
So despite all these legal fireworks, the motions, the team changes, the judge basically said, nope, we're not delaying.
Really, he wanted a delay.
Yeah, Diddy's team asked for a 2-month delay. But the judge wasn't buying the reasons, especially pointing out how many different law firms have already been involved. So it looks like May is still the target start date.
Interesting. The judge refusing to delay suggests they think both sides have had enough time, enough resources, and they want to keep this case moving. No more stalling.
Right, keeping the pressure on.
Definitely. It shows the court's desire to proceed without what they see as unnecessary holdups.
Here's another interesting angle. The judge agreed to let some alleged victims testify using pseudonyms, fake names.
Okay, that's common in these types of cases.
But Cassie Ventura, she is expected to testify under her own name.
Wow, that's a powerful choice. Allowing anonymity can be really crucial, right? It helps victims come forward without fearing the public backlash or scrutiny.
For sure.
But Cassie choosing to use her own name, that speaks volumes about her resolve, her willingness to stand by her story publicly. Even knowing what that entails could have a big impact on the jury.
Yeah, huge courage there. And one more development. The defense actually won a request. They get access to outtakes from interviews done for a Warner Brothers documentary.
Documentary.
About what?
Unclear exactly, but the interviews apparently include people who might be called as witnesses in the trial.
Ah, okay, so getting those outtakes could be really valuable for the defense.
How so?
Well, it gives them more material to scrutinize witness statements, look for any inconsistencies between what was said on camera and what might be said in court, maybe find angles for cross-examination. It's about information gathering, trying to find ways to challenge the prosecution's witnesses.
Gotcha. Okay, now this next point is, well, it's sensitive. Diddy's former lawyer at one point argued this whole case is basically a takedown of a successful black man.
Right, I remember hearing about that line of argument.
Apparently, that argument didn't sit well internally because reports suggest it's what led to Anthony Rico, who was the only black lawyer on Diddy's team at the time, leaving.
That's a significant detail. So that argument might have caused friction within the team itself. Seems like it. But despite Rico leaving, it looks like the defense still plans to make race a central point in the trial.
Bringing race into the defense strategy like that, it's always complex.
Yeah.
And potentially really divisive.
Yeah.
On one hand, systemic issues are real. On the other, using it in this specific context, given the nature of the charges, it could resonate with some jurors, but it might alienate others, especially with the diverse backgrounds likely involved. And the fact his black attorney apparently left because of this argument adds another really complicated layer.
Definitely something to watch. Okay, let's talk bottom line. What is actually on the line here?
Everything, essentially.
If he's convicted on these big charges, sex trafficking, racketeering Diddy's 55 years old, he could be looking at a very, very long time in prison, potentially the rest of his life.
It's incredibly serious. Even just one of the charges, I think, transportation for prostitution, carries a potential 10-year sentence on its own.
And we should probably mention, the place where this is being tried, the Southern District of New York, they have a reputation, a very high conviction rate.
They do. SDNY is known for being aggressive and successful in their prosecutions. That definitely adds to the pressure cooker environment for the defense. The potential penalties are severe, and the track record of the prosecutors is formidable.
Okay, here's something that sounds almost like a movie plot point. Apparently, many of the anonymous witnesses agreed to testify because they knew they were on tapes.
Tapes. More tapes.
Yeah, tapes recovered from Diddy's Miami mansion during those raids. Word is there are potentially hundreds of hours of footage.
Hundreds of hours. Wow. If that's true, the existence of that much video evidence could be absolutely massive for the prosecution.
How so?
It could potentially corroborate the stories of multiple alleged victims, even those testifying anonymously. It could show patterns of behavior, context. It could be a mountain of evidence suggesting widespread conduct, not just isolated incidents.
A huge potential treasure trove for the prosecutors.
If it shows what they believe it shows, yes.
And get this detail about the plea deal he rejected. Apparently, part of the deal would have required him not just to admit guilt, but also to name co-conspirators. Name names.
Ah, so it involved cooperation against others.
Yeah, and he refused. That sends a pretty strong message, doesn't it?
It really does. Refusing to cooperate like that, refusing to snitch, suggests either a very strong sense of loyalty, perhaps, or maybe just an unwavering belief he can beat the charges outright without implicating anyone else. Or maybe fear of reprisal. Whatever the reason, it's another high-risk decision.
Yeah, turning down a deal and refusing to cooperate. Bold move.
Extremely bold, potentially doubling down on the risk if he's convicted.
And through all of this chaos,
Yeah.
all the legal wrangling, it sounds like Cassie Ventura is absolutely determined to testify.
Despite everything she'll face.
Yeah, even knowing how incredibly difficult it will be, having her personal life dissected in public. Reports say she is moving forward, ready to take the stand. Her willingness to do that publicly is seen as a really significant factor in this whole case.
Absolutely. Cassie's resolve to testify, knowing the personal toll it will take, is powerful. Her willingness to face that scrutiny could be incredibly compelling for a jury. It shows immense courage and could really lend weight to her testimony.
So as we barrel towards this May trial date, the legal storm around Diddy is just intensifying, isn't it?
It really is. It's clear this is going to be a collision course.
You've got this explosive video evidence, you have witness testimonies, some public like Cassie, some anonymous, and then all these complex, shifting legal strategies from the defense. It's all going to crash together in that courtroom.
And the outcome hinges entirely on how that jury pieces it all together, how they interpret the conflicting stories, how much weight they give to the video versus the testimony versus the defense arguments.
The defense changing lawyers, trying all these different angles, the prosecution standing firm on the video. It really feels like we're in for a trial with a lot of twists and turns.
Absolutely. The contrasting approaches, the rejected plea deal. It points towards a very complex and potentially unpredictable legal battle ahead.
And, the decisions made there, they won't just affect Diddy. This is going to send ripples, maybe even shockwaves, through the whole entertainment industry.
No doubt.
It's going to spark even more conversations about power, about accountability, about the long shadow abuse allegations can cast, the fact that a deal was offered but refused, and the defense is throwing everything at the wall strategy-wise. It tells you this is far from straightforward.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? With all the evidence and counter-arguments flying around, what will the jury make of it all?
Exactly. And beyond just this case, it forces you to consider how our legal system handles these massive allegations, especially involving people with immense fame and influence. What are the real challenges for accusers? How does justice work or not work in the spotlight? It leaves you with a lot to chew on.